Yo. Today is Sunday. The time now, let me show you, is 9:38. And I wake up at 5 a.m. As you guys see, there's an alarm for 5 a.m. But as you guys know, Sunday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I release a YouTube video. And that's what I told myself. And ever since, I've said to myself, whatever comes out my mouth, I will follow through with. I have become a person where I feel so confident with myself. It gets to a point where it's somewhat delusional because I believe so much what I say that it ends up happening. And if it doesn't happen, in my head, it plays a bigger picture for that thing that's actually going to happen. And the subject I want to talk about today is I want to talk about fear. You probably read from the title, how to eradicate fear, and understanding what fear is in itself. Because if you don't understand what fear is, then you'll never be able to come out of it. And I want you to just picture fear as a cage. And most of us live inside this cage for the rest of our lives. And many people never come out of this cage. And if you're watching this, this is probably you. We live in this cage of fear. And what fear does, it stops you from taking action. And the reason this is a problem, because everything that you want to achieve is on the other side of this fear. Because once you start realizing that every problem or situation that you see as a hardship is actually an opportunity for you to overcome, for you to gain that thing that you so much desire. And talking about desires, this is what fear comes from. Because you need to understand that a desire is a contract for you to be unhappy with yourself until you get that thing that you want. But you guys have so many desires, so that means you're going to be very unhappy. And unless you have a very high stress threshold tolerance, you cannot stand that stress. And guess what? You break. And when you break, you end up not following through with your word. And when you don't end up following through with your word, then you don't have that confidence. Remember what I told you, confidence is follow through, is whatever you say you're going to do and you end up doing it, then you have become a confident person. You need to take out this picture from your head that you have to wait till you get confidence to get the thing. Doing the thing is what gives you the confidence. If you pretend to be courageous, you have been courageous. And you do that so many times that it becomes part of your identity. And as I mentioned from the very start before I get off track, is identity is a state of being. Many people have this idea that identity is, oh, I'm an insecure person, I'm a weak person, I'm a very anxious person. No, identity is a state of being. If today you decide to follow through and act as a courageous person, or today you have been courageous, and if you continuously do that day on day out for the several amount of days, weeks, years, months, you have become a courageous person. Likewise, if today I am disciplined, I follow through my word, tomorrow the same thing, I'm disciplined, the day after the same thing. But if for some reason tomorrow I don't wake up at 5 a.m, I end up just sleeping in, I become someone lazy. It doesn't mean I'm lazy, but I've just become someone lazy. And if I continuously do that, I become the identity of being lazy. So now let me go back to fear. Fear is this prison of us having this idea of something that hasn't happened yet that we think is going to happen, and in reality most of the time it doesn't happen. So what ends up happening, we end up suffering more in our imagination than we ever do in real life. Because how many times have you thought of a situation that you think, oh, I'm not going to pay this bill, or this is going to happen, I'm going to end up living on the street. We always think of worst case scenarios, we never think of best case scenarios, and that's where we end up staying stuck in that same place and we never end up doing anything. We always want to play it safe. But there's a saying that sticks by me. It says ships are safest at bay, but ships were not made for that. Ships are made to go out, made to explore. And this is the same with us, because we see life very zoomed in into that moment. So in this moment we feel stressed out, so we predict and we think that our life is just that moment. You need to zoom out. Think about, if you keep on doing what you're doing now for the rest of your life, how will your life be? Are you content? Because your life is a construct of habits. Your life is a construct of daily actions which you do, which create the reality that you live. Very simple. If you see an athletic person, someone which is muscular, you already know that habitually that person goes to the gym. If you see someone that is overweight, you know that that person habitually overeats. That person, your physique speaks for you when you don't. So going back to the point of fear, where I'm just giving you little nuggets for you to understand and try to create this image which I'm trying to tell you of fear. Because fear and faith both require you to believe in something that you cannot see. But faith makes you realize something, an opportunity that you can live with the set of outcomes. However, fear stops you because it says, but what if it goes wrong? But what if I end up homeless? But what if this happens? But most of the time that never happens. I want you to look back in your experiences in times where you had this what if mindset and you stay stuck in fear that, oh, I don't know if this is going to happen. So you live that emotion as if you're living through it. But then when it happens, it wasn't that bad. This is the same thing. Like, go back to those times when we were kids and someone used to say, I don't know if you ever played this, but I used to play this in my school, is I dare you to do this, or I dare you to go speak to that girl, or I dare you to knock on that door. You feel like you can't do it. Why? Because it's fear. Because you're doing something out of the ordinary, something that you don't normally do. But when you go ahead and do it, you realize, I feel alive. What was that feeling? It wasn't as bad as I thought it was. So why have all of a sudden have you stopped doing things that make you feel alive? Fear stops you. Fear freezes you. Fear is a killer of the mind. So how do you remove fear? So I hope you've understood the picture of fear. And just to basically summarize what fear is this imagination, or this reality that you've created of the future that might not ever exist. And remember, back to what I say a lot, is that tomorrow you don't even know if you're going to be alive tomorrow. So that should eradicate fear in itself. But we close off opportunities of what can be because we're scared of the what if. That's what fear is. So how do you eradicate fear? Remember what I told you, that desire is a contract that you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get that thing that you want. Which is why you need to understand, with every desire that you had, there's a possibility of fear. So if you have this desire of being in shape, you have now created an outcome that you want, which is achieved with faith. And then at the end of it, in case you don't get it, is fear. So faith and fear both require you to believe in something that you cannot see because you don't have them yet, but yet you have to take an action to get it, or you don't take action to not get it. The point that I'm trying to make here is that with every desire, you're going to have fear. But what if I don't make money? Or what if I don't get that physique? Or what if I take the action? That's what you're scared of. What you're really scared of is not taking the action to get that outcome. Because if you never stop, if you keep on going, you will get that outcome. But what happens on the way? That self-doubt comes in, the fear comes in, the anxiety comes in, that pressure that you feel of what if I could have done this comes in. So now all these doubts stop you from what? From taking action, because you believe you're not going to get the result because the what if. So then that, when you don't take action, it guarantees that you don't get the result. But if you continue going despite the doubts, despite the fear, when you keep on going, eventually you reach that destination. I'm going to give you a personal example. When I started creating content, I had this fear, okay? This fear of looking stupid, this fear of it never working out, the fear of it being embarrassing. But when you post that video, what you feel is embarrassment, maybe you feel ashamed, but you never feel regret. And that is the key to life, to never feel regret. Because feeling embarrassed, but yet you're trying something that you've always wanted to do, you might feel embarrassed, but you never feel regret. But only when you stop, then you'll think, oh, why did I do that? That was so cringe. It will only be cringe until it works. Because guess what? You keep on going. It's still embarrassing. You keep on going. People might start throwing a bit of hate. But remember, when people throw hate and people see you doing your thing, the reality is that they don't want you to win. They want you to lose. Because when they see you doing your thing and you lose, that makes them feel better for them not taking the action that might get you that result. And when you do get it, they feel bad, and that's when the hatred comes in, because hate is hate on what they gave up on. Remember what I said. So anyway, this personal experience, I remember posting my videos and there was no traction. I kept on going. The fear came in. Will I get it? Will I get this? Will I get this goal that I want? Will it happen? Stop trying to project an outcome. You can't put things in play. And I've mentioned this before. I don't even know if I'm allowed to put this out there, but I'm going to tell you guys, because if you've made it to 9 minutes in, you guys are my real life followers and you guys deserve to know this. There's things that you might not understand. There's things that you can't predict in this life. I got an email. I'm actually going to show you this email. Look. I'm going to show you this email. Where is it? I covered everything. Look at this email. Hope you can see it. Hi, I hope as well. I'm reaching out for an exciting upcoming campaign we're working on with one of our clients. It's a high production influence content series. And just read it, just pause it. Anyway, I got this email for this company, for this shoot. Is it confirmed? I don't know. But before, if I didn't get this job, I would have been so frustrated. I would think, oh no, like, oh, I'm not getting this job. Oh, it's the worst thing in the world. But now if I don't get it, I know it plays part of a bigger picture, because that's what faith is believing in something that you can't see it. But fear is that state of lack, of scarcity, of, oh no, this is my only hope. Oh, and that's when you start to feel frustrated because you don't have this outcome that you want. You don't have this desire yet. So then that starts affecting the way that you feel, which ends up affecting the way that you take action, which then ends up affecting the whole outcome of it never coming. How much are they paying me for this? If you made it this far, you deserve to know. 15,000 Great British pounds for 3 days. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. This is what faith is. This is why I feel so confident with myself, because the person that makes me, my worth comes from my actions. Doesn't come from my results. It doesn't come from my followers. It doesn't come from my money. It doesn't come from any of this. You can take away all of that, but I will always validate with the actions that made me. Because guess what? The same way I made it, I can make it all again. That's why look at a man by his habits and by his actions, not by anything else. So the point I was trying to make after this was, there's some things that you can't put into perspective on how things are going to work out. But guess what? One thing that you can control is making sure that you take action. And every time that you take action, it eradicates fear. Always bring it down to two things. There are two people living inside of us. Our future self, that person who we envision, that person who we admire, that action taker, that fearless person, that confident person. But that person comes on the other side of acceptance, the acceptance of truth, understanding that you are weak, you are insecure, and you're full of doubt, which is who I was. Once I realized I had that, now my problem wasn't a problem. Now I had an opportunity. I had a way out to become someone that I've always wanted to become. And guess what? Doing the uncomfortable, when you're stuck in between stimulus and response and you're doubting whether you should take action or not, guess what happens there? You think about, how would my future self act? How would that person who I admire act? What would he do? Because if you keep on acting the way that you act, you'll stay in that same position where you don't want to be in. But if now you start acting in the mind frame of how that person you admire would do it, then you start becoming that person. Because within time, remember what I said, identity is a state of being. Within time, you actually end up becoming this person. So which is what I always do. But for you to do those things, you have to start off, and it will feel very uncomfortable until it becomes something comfortable, which is why I tell you guys, growth isn't discomfort. Seek more discomfort, which is why you need to feel comfortable being uncomfortable. Within time, you end up shaping your identity into that person that you want to become. But if you keep on doing the things that you do today, you will still be that person who you are today. Now ask yourself, do you like that person? If you're watching this, most likely not. So think about the person that you admire and what you admire from this person. You admire their qualities. You admire the way that they speak. You admire the way that they interact. That's what I look into a person. I admire the way that they respect people. I admire the way that they speak, chest high, affirmative, action taker, fearless, confident. This is someone I admire to be. This is the person I'm creating. This is who my higher self is. Which is why with my daily actions, I confirm and I affirm it. Because I wake up early. I'm a man of action. I do a lot more than the average person does. In a whole year, I'll probably do that in my morning. That's the reality of it. Why? Because we do not miss. That is the key to taking action. Consistency. That is the key. So I just entered a bit of flow state, and I hope I managed to cover some areas. Please let me put in the comment section down below what is your biggest takeaways from this. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I just went and covered a whole lot of different points in this video. I hope I managed to cover it for you. When I enter flow state, I end up covering and just speaking and just letting my mind go loose. I hope this video helped you, gave you some sort of value. If it did and you have any doubts, drop me a message on Instagram @Suno_. Love you guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.